y'all doing? I'm a Scottish truck driver, my name's Jordan, I'm a professional Class 1 HGV driver. I'm going to add my tuppence worth in regards to the driver shortage that we're experiencing. For me, I think it could be easily rectified throughout the industry with a couple of key points. Firstly, wages. Yes, a lot of companies at the moment have started giving drivers pay increases from 20 to 40% from what they were earning. Great, because it wasn't so long ago that drivers were being paid less than the people that were taking the stuff out the back of their trailer. It just doesn't make sense. You spend upwards of $4,000 to get your Class 2 and your Class 1 licence, to then earn £10 an hour where the guy in the warehouse is on £13–14 an hour doing night shift, for argument's sake. But a lot of companies are starting to and have started to address that one by offering these pay increases. Secondly, facilities. Now, I'm a tramper, so I live out in my truck Monday to Friday, occasionally doing a Saturday shift. Your privately owned company like Truckhaven, where you go into the services, you're greeted by a member of staff and security, you're told where to park, very professional. You go inside, get a nice hot meal. Yes, you have to pay for it, but you get meal vouchers, etc. The showers are clean and tidy, well looked after. That's privately owned companies that have their own truck stops. For instance, Truckhaven at Carnforth. Then you've got your bigger companies like Moto, who I personally think have got the worst track records for services. You're parking in, I should say with Truckhaven you get security. There's 24-hour security. You will always see or hear the vehicles driving about at night, just making sure that nothing's being taken out the back of your trailer. Because the biggest threat of when you park up is someone going to slash the curtains. It's going to cost your employer money for a call out to come out and repair your curtains. Will someone nick my diesel? You can put all the theft measures you want onto the truck. You know, a locking fuel filler cap, even a cover to cover the tank, etc, etc. But if a thief is that determined to steal either diesel out your tank or even your load, there's not really much you can do about it. And drivers, we don't get paid enough to confront people if someone was trying to steal diesel or the load. But Moto are quite bad for it. You will have very little security. They heavily rely on CCTV. You know, and you might have somewhere that all have, like, maybe someone sat in a security office, maybe, if it's manned. If not, they just rely on the cameras. And if something should happen, should you know, have your curtains slashed or your diesel nicked or your load nicked, it's usually just a case of call this number, and you know, nothing is ever really done about it. They sort of tend to wipe their hands and go, nope, we want nothing to do with it. And bear in mind, people are paying from between £20 and £35 a night to park in these services. So there's just the outside. And then you go into the inside, where during the pandemic, mostly everywhere was shut. Your M&S, Burger Kings, McDonald's, etc. were all closed. So you were having to rely on, you know, service shop food, sandwiches, crisps, etc. But after recently, obviously, it's places started opening again, and there's not really that great a selection of food whilst you're out on the road. So you tend to look for your privately owned companies like Carnforth that, you know, offer proper cooked food rather than some stale pasty. You then get into the showers, which, yes, drivers are to blame. you will get drivers that think it's appropriate to relieve bodily functions on the floor and think that's acceptable. I would hate to see how half of these drivers treat their own house. But the cleanliness of toilets in general, they're not very well cleaned. I mean, you're trying to pay a cleaner, you know, probably peanuts for essentially wiping up after HGV drivers. Now, should there be more staff on? Should the cleanliness of toilets and showers be, you know, be looked at better? Yes, 100%. So they're the two biggest bug gripes out of every driver that I've spoke to. Now I know can't say much. I've only been driving 2 years, and for those 2 years I've pretty much been a tramper since day one. But that's something that I've noticed myself. Other reasons that, you know, there's a driver shortage, when you go to the likes of your regional distribution centres, your Tesco's, your Morrisons, Asda, etc, etc. If you are early, you know, you try and do well, you try and push on a little bit, and, you know, say your delivery time's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you get there for say 2 o'clock, you're an hour early. You would naturally think that, yeah, it'd be great, you know, you can go in, the company gets the load earlier, you know, they can then get it out into the shelves earlier. Fantastic. No. You're refused entry. Told to come back at your time at 3 o'clock. Okay, that's fine. You come back at 3 o'clock, say, you may be greeted with a case of, we don't have any bays available. But you had bays available an hour ago. Anyway. You're greeted with a case of, oh, we've not got anything at the moment, come back and see us in half an hour's time. You know, it's very hit or miss. You also may have the load rejected as well if you're late. You know, traffic, for instance, we're in stop-start traffic at the moment, which is adding time on to my journey. If there's a serious accident and you're delayed by an hour or two, you get to the store and you're refused. For a genuine reason of that it wasn't a case of you slept in or something, you know, there was a fatality on the road was shut, you had to make a diversion. Load could get rejected. Also, the attitude at some people at these distribution centres as well is absolutely disgusting. You're providing them with the goods that they need to go out and supply the members of the public. And you're spoken down to, you're spoken to like a child, even sworn at. Some places, smaller companies that you go into, you may be subject to, you know, basically being slagged off. I myself have had an instance where I was racially assaulted by a chap, and you're meant to apparently take this in your stride and still deliver the goods off. So it's not just distribution centres, as I says, any places that you really go, you know, no one's happy to see you being a HGV driver. It's a lonely enough job as it is. Maybe the only contact that you might have with someone that day is the person at a goods in office, and if they've got an attitude, it just fouls your mood, completely fouls your mood. That as well, in your larger companies, you're treated like a number. You know, it's basically a case of, oh, I need a day off, or, you know, I've got a funeral. Oh, we haven't got the manpower to cover your shift. So you're basically forced of either, you know, making a wage, or, you know, going to say, for instance, someone's funeral and potentially losing your job out of it. Your smaller family-run businesses are more of a nice, tighter-knit community where, you know, you maybe know the owner directly, and they're more understanding of your situation. There's so many varying factors. I don't know all that much about IR35. From what I'm led to believe, you used to be able to claim self-employed going and working for an agency or a company, and basically the company would just transfer you the money for you know, you send them an invoice, and you know, they would basically, you were getting more. You'd have maybe a guy that's PAYE, that the company's paying his national insurance, tax, holiday, you know, uniform, etc., and they were paying him, say for argument's sake, £10 an hour. But you could have a agency driver that's self-employed that could be earning upwards of £14 an hour, which the government have tried to stop that, and that's where a lot of drivers went, well, what's the point of working for £10 an hour? You know, I'm not making enough money. But I don't know all that great about that. So yeah, pay, it's on the increase. Facilities, my honest answer to it would be basically forcing these companies that charge extortionate amounts for parking to provide clean facilities, secure parking as well. RDC, like, you know, said about RDC staff, of actually having, you know, staff that are actually happy to see you. Not that's ever going to happen, but IR35, I don't honestly believe Brexit is all that big a part of the driver shortage. We've been steadily, if you look at the numbers from 10 years ago to now, we've steadily been losing drivers of the industry. During lockdown, for instance, a lot of drivers were really happy at the fact that there was less and less cars on the road. You were getting into less and less arguments with other people, like other road users. There seems to be a very, very small minority of drivers that just don't appreciate the fact that HGVs are slower, heavier, and generally we are looked upon as being a burden on the roads. But yet, if every HGV driver came to a stop in the UK would crumble within 2 days. A lot of people don't seem to realise that, of when they're past, you know, an Arctic's passing another Arctic. Yes, it's infuriating on a dual carriageway, one sat at 55, the other one sat at 55.5, but that's just down to driver ignorance for not letting off the throttle to let the other driver in. But still, it's then the horn beeps that you get, the middle fingers that you get off people, slowing down, braking in front of you, forcing you to brake, which then takes you momentum to build back up again. There's just not that level of respect for HGV drivers compared to you know, argument's sake, the NHS, who provided a wonderful service during lockdown. But I feel like the HGV drivers weren't really appreciated as much for keeping the country going when there was 3/4 of the country that were forced to stay home, still relying on their local supermarkets for food, necessities, you know, toilet paper, etc. It was the HGV drivers that brought them. Pretty much 99% of anything you own or touch has been on the back of a wagon. And that gets to drivers as well, a level of respect towards us, where you get people, Karens, that, you know, will try and do anything in their power to, you know, basically burden your day. For instance, you're parked up on say you're doing a delivery to a supermarket that's on a housing estate, you park up to take your statutory break, you will always be guaranteed to get that one person that will, you know, moan at you for where you've parked, but you legally can't move for 15, 30 or 45 minutes, and there's no getting around that. The tachograph cannot be beaten. So what I honestly think needs to happen in the to entice more drivers into the HGV industry. Personally, starting off for when people are 17, 18 years old, have an incentive to get them into the industry. Either the government, you know, if it's clear that people want to go for a HGV driving course, like, you know, wants to be a HGV driver, then part funding their license. It's very expensive to get your license in the UK. But if the government were to throw an incentive where they covered half the cost, taking it from like £4,000 for getting your class 2 and your class 1 to someone now having to just pay £2,000 to get the licenses, I'm sure they would entice more people into the industry, because having a small following that I've got, the most people that stumble at the first hurdle getting the license is the money. So sort that out and you will entice more drivers into the industry, both male and female. I'm a firm believer in the CPC for newer drivers. I can't understand it for drivers that have been on the road for 30 plus years. Even 15 plus years. You know, I learn a lot from my CPC, which, if you don't know, we are required to take 30 hours of training over 5 years, which isn't a lot. It's 1 day a week. It's 1 day a year of 8 hours. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40 hours training? It's my mistake, 40 hours training. 40, 50 hours training that you're required to take. I can understand it for newer drivers, but I can't understand it for older drivers that have been doing this job longer and are then having to be subjected to sitting into a classroom listening to someone that's half their age telling them how to do their own job. That I don't understand. Yeah, another part where a lot of people, so health and safety has gone mad. You know, you're going in to load toilet roll and you're being forced to wear full PPE, etc. Okay. Back when I was a lot younger, I'd sit in the passenger seat with my dad and go out in the truck bum. That's something that's really frowned upon now, where unless you work for like a family-run business where they allow a passenger to be out in the lorry, you're basically stopping younger kids getting into the passenger seat to go out with their mother or father to go and do a quick shift, because some sites won't allow passengers. But I think that's what's inspired a lot of younger people. Well, certainly inspired me as a younger age to get into this industry. It was because it reminds me of a time where I was sat with my dad in this very seat that I'm sat in, you know, seeing a little bit of the world. Might not have been far, but it was still enough. So a quick summary then. Pay going up. Facilities needs to be improved for larger owned companies like Moto. We're never going to get the respect of staff or RDCs, etc. But yeah, pay and just conditions, and I think you would entice a hell of a lot more people back into the industry. Anyway, I've been the Scottish Trucker. Leave your comment below, see if I've touched on any points that you think would be worthwhile, or maybe if I've missed something. Maybe there's something that is glaring at you there of why there's a HGV driver shortage. Anyway,